Hello, I'm Jarrell, a tattletale, one of the Kaumba storytellers. He is a former slave, sea captain, businessman, and politician. There is a lot to say about Robert Small. Learn his story by the storyteller John Doyle.
My name's Robert Smalls, and this is my story of 7 miles to freedom. The year is 1862. The middle of the Civil War is going on. The Civil War. That's the war between the states. The northern states with the Union Army, those are the free states. And the southern states, the Confederate Army, those are the slave states. And since I was born in Beaufort, South Carolina, I was down there with the Confederate Army. So I and 8 other enslaved men, we were forced to work on a steam whistle boat called the Plantier. Now the Plantier, that was used to bring guns and ammunition to other Confederate armies. I hated working on that boat. I hated working on that boat because I was working against my own freedom. And all I wanted was my freedom my whole life. And I especially wanted it now because I was married and had 2 children now. So I really want to have my freedom. Well, as luck would have it, I was always somebody that was very observant. That's how I learned. I learned by just always watching. And I really observed that the ship officers, including the captain of the ship, all the white officers, they would always leave off the boat at nighttime, and they wouldn't come back till morning. And so they would leave us 8 enslaved men right there on the boat. Well, I remember one night when those officers went off the boat, well, we were just sitting there talking, and one of my fellow crewmen, they put the captain's hat right on top of me. And then they told me to put on the captain's coat. And they said, "Robert, you look just like the captain." And I started walking like the captain and moving like the captain. They all had a good laugh about it. I even had a good laugh about it. But then I thought about something. And I said, I'm going to be the captain. And everybody looked at me. They said, "Robert, you crazy." And I said, "I might be, but listen what I'm saying. No, I can be the captain. I know how to steer these boats." I reminded them that ever since the age of 15, that my master, he would have me work on these different boats here even before the Civil War. So I know how to steer these boats. I know the back of these waterways like the back of my hand. See, we were right there in the Charleston Harbor. And I told them that the Union Army boat was just 7 miles right outside of the harbor. Now, if we could get to them, we could be free. And I said, also, I know the secret steam whistle signal. Now, the secret steam whistle signal, that was used for all the Confederate ships. Well, in order to pass the different checkpoints, they would have to know that steam whistle signal. And if they didn't know that steam whistle signal, well, then there would be lots of guns and cannons pointed at them. But I told them, I said, I know the steam whistle signal. I know the back of these waterways like the back of my hand, and I know how to steer this here boat. I just got to know if you are going to be with me. We can pick up our families on whatever night that we decide that we're going to leave, but I got to know first, are you going to be with me? And they all agreed. And I told them that if we ever got caught, I didn't even have to finish my sentence. They all knew what the consequences were. But we agreed it was worth the risk for our freedom. So for the next month, all I did was observe that captain. I observed what that captain did. I observed to make sure that I knew what that steam whistle signal was. And finally, it was May 13th. It was about 2 a.m. That's when we decided we were going to make our escape. So we told our families to meet us up shore just a bit, and we come pick them up. We had to make sure that the captain and all the other ship officers were not coming back on the boat by 2 a.m. If they weren't on the boat now, they weren't coming on the boat till that morning. So we pulled the anchor up off that boat. And I slowly backed that boat out. And as we're making our way, we made our way a little bit up the shore to pick up our families. We had to be very quiet. All our families got onto that boat. So now, 7 miles to our freedom. So we were making our way up to that first checkpoint. I gotta tell you, my heart was beating out my chest. I was so nervous. So as we're getting up to that checkpoint, I'm reaching for that rope to pull that steam whistle signal. And we got a little bit closer and I did the signal. Now in order for us to pass, they have to echo that signal right back to us. It felt like forever for that signal to come back, but it did. Now I gotta tell you, I was still so nervous. We're still 6 miles away from our freedom. So we're making our way up to that second checkpoint. Now as we're getting close to that second checkpoint, I do the signal again. Now this time, it took a little bit long for that signal to come back. I was like, are we gonna get caught? Is this it? And then that signal came right back to us. I'm starting to get the confidence now that we might be able to do this. We're still 5 miles from our freedom, but we're getting closer and closer with each mile. So now we make our way to that third checkpoint, and I'll pull on that signal and they echo it right back. But because we did not want to bring attention to us, we were going real slow. And because we're going slow, well, night was our friend because they couldn't be able to see us because it was nighttime. But it was starting to become daytime. It was getting closer. So by the time we made to that fourth checkpoint, we're still just 3 miles away from our freedom. But daylight was starting to come. Now, if they could see who's on that boat, we would be caught for sure. Now, I couldn't let us get this close to our freedom and for us to get caught. So my mind started thinking about what I could do, And I remembered that disguise. The captain's hat and the captain's coat. And I told the other crew member, I said, look, I'm gonna go stand up there in the front of the ship. You are gonna have to do the steam whistle signal. And I told them exactly how to do it. You have to do it just right in just the right time. I said, I'm gonna stand out in front of that boat. And I'm gonna show them that I'm the captain, but I'll make sure that they won't be able to see my face. So I went out there on the front of the boat. And I tipped my head down just a little bit, just like how the captain would. And I stood just like how the captain would. I folded my arms just like how the captain did. And sometimes I would pace around the boat just like how the captain did. I did everything that I learned, that I observed from that captain. Like I told you earlier, I learned a lot from observing. So, we got close to that 5th checkpoint. Now this 5th checkpoint was the most dangerous checkpoint. See, this 5th checkpoint, that was Fort Sumter. Now, this was the last checkpoint, but at Fort Sumter, that's where all the cannons and all the guns, the major part of the army is right there at Fort Sumter. But we had to do it. By this time, it was becoming daybreak. So there's no choice but for me to put on this disguise. So I told the other crew member exactly when to pull on that steam whistle signal. I stood out there in the front of that boat. Now, some of the other ships in the harbor, some of the other Confederate ships, they could see me. So I just tipped my hat down and I nodded down just like how the captain would. Well, as we got close to that 5th checkpoint, by this time we're only 2 miles from our freedom once we get past this checkpoint. Well, as we get closer to it, I could see those guns and I could see those cannons. But at this point, we're at the point of no return. And I told the other crew member exactly when to pull on that signal. I gave him the head nod, and he did the signal. And it took a little while. No, it took a long while. And finally we heard that echo, that signal come right back to us. Now, as we're going past this 5th checkpoint, well, most of the Confederate ships, they would just go to the right. Well, to get to that Union Army boat, we had to go to the left. So at the last minute, I veered that boat to the left and I said, full steam ahead. And we started making our way to that Union Army boat. But by this time, well, the Confederate Army right there at Fort Sumter, they saw that we had took this boat and they started shooting their cannons and guns, but we were too far away from them. Yeah, we were making our way up to that Union Army, but we were not out of the woods yet. You see, because we were a Confederate ship, of course the Union Army is going to think we were a Confederate boat. We had the Confederate flag hoisted up. So I told my wife, I said, go get that right sheet that I told you to prepare for us. She got that right sheet. I said, we got to bring this Confederate flag down. They brought the Confederate flag down and they hoisted up that right flag. When they hoisted up that right flag, I could see that the Union Army, even though they had their guns pointed right at us, they could see that right flag, which means that we were surrendering. And they put down their guns. And I slowly sailed that boat right into the Union Army harbor right there. But the Union Army officers, they came up on that boat. And the first thing I said to them, I said, I got some guns and some cannons here for you. I think Uncle Abe Lincoln could use these. And that was my 7 miles to freedom.
Robert Small is just one of the many African Americans elected during Reconstruction. I'm Jarrell, and this has been Profiles in Color.